Hello, and welcome to another week at the bungalow. More dormer roof construction, and you pretty much find us where you left us. We're finishing off the parapet wall, so we put another 150 by 50 timber across the top to match up with the one at the front there. And then that just increases the height of the parapet. Can see the fall of the roof there, drifting off to the right hand side. Got about a 50 to 60 mil drop across the 3 meters of the roof, down into the gutter area there. So we're cladding out the gutter as well, which is a hidden box gutter. All being clad in 18mm OSB over the top. And then on top of this we'll be applying the Ultraflex wet on wet roofing system. As always, glued and screwed, just trying to keep it as solid as possible, making sure there's no movement, so when the waterproofing goes on top you don't get any cracks or splits because the boards are moving. It's all pretty much fixed as one entity. As you can see there on the left hand side, we had to clamp down the piece of timber just to get it absolutely spot on, so as the water runs down it's not going to get caught up on anything, we don't get any puddling. So we're being as careful as possible to make sure the gaps that we leave are as tight as possible and as close. And just on the sideline, I'd like to thank everybody subscribing. We've finally hit the dizzying heights of 500 subscribers, so thank you very much for that. And also a big thank you to Darren Pinder, who was our first subscriber back last year when we started the channel. And anyone who hasn't subscribed, please do, and we'd love you to leave comments and give us that big like if you get a chance. Anyway, I'll let you get back to what you tuned in for. Thank you very much. Clear, just sticking in the last screws. 60mm screws, same as on the roof deck, just to hold it all together. So we've got the splay pieces here, and then what we're going to have is a 45-degree infill piece. I want to call it a quadrant, but I'm not entirely sure what it's called. But it's just to make the transition between the wall and the floor of the deck as smooth as possible. So I'm putting the odd packer behind, just to make sure the board stays nice and vertical, and if we've got any differences in timber sizing behind there, that's holding it in place. Here we were going to put the quadrant bits in, but we decided it wasn't quite big enough, so we've got the triangles of timber that are then supporting out a piece of 9mm OSB. This is to mimic, or we're hoping it's going to mimic, the rafters the other side when we come to put the dry ridge on. So these may end up with some small cloakers along the top there, screwed into the timber, so that the ridge tiles sit nice and flush. But once again, all glued and screwed together. And as the last piece goes in place, a couple of screws. And then this is the quadrant that we cut. So this is the 50mm timbers, and we just cut a 45° on them on the table saw, just so that when we come to do the roofing system on top, it's eased in, and we've got something to lay the fiberglass matting onto. Everything to try and send the water off to one side. Next we're doing the fairings in the gutter. So the ones across the roof take us from 100mm down to 50, and these take us to the left and to the right from 50 down to 0 on top of the roof rafters. It's all nice and hidden, and then the downpipes will be in the corners, and they'll also be hidden and out of the way. And as you can see, it looks pretty neat. Heading towards the end of the day, and the tarpaulins there ready to cover up all this fresh OSB. Another day, another new job, and we're cutting through for the roof lights in the bathrooms. So this is marked, then jigsawed out. Using the actual roof light as a template, now we've got the edge and we know where it's going to sit. Pretty scary moment. You always never quite sure you got it exactly in the right place when you make that first initial cut, but it seemed to work out alright. Bit of a tidy up, trying to keep the roof as dust free as possible so it all gets swept down inside. Once again glued in, positioned, and then screwed into place. And then we've got the same quadrant pieces all the way around, once again to give it that kick-off of water, and just to stop any sort of standing water from happening. This is the window to the other bathroom at the other end. Window on bathroom 1. And the finished job. As you can see, Claire's been busy masticking around, filling up all the small gaps we've got left. So here's where the gutter, or the downpipe, fits into the hidden gutter, or the box gutter. So marking up and drilling through. And then we've got these pre-formed plastic downspouts that'll get glued down it with the roofing, so fiberglass round, and with the resin of the wet on wet system, it should be held in place. And then we pick the right size so that we can connect a normal downpipe to it, so just standard 70mm, 75mm downpipe. Last bit of gluing, hold it in place, and then a few screws. So what we did was we made sure that the joints, as far as the OSB were concerned, were on the actual fairings. So where we've got two pieces here that make up the full length, the joint is on the fairings, so it's not on the transition of height changes. And then that large piece you see at the top is flat, and the idea of that is to cover the joint. So the OSB goes over the change in height and eases the fall. And exactly the same process at the other end. Piece goes in, glued and screwed down. And then the last little square on the top. Wiggled around to make sure that glue's bonded in, and then Claire continues with the mastic. So we're using a polyurethane mastic rather than the traditional silicone. This is recommended with the Ultraflex wet and wet system that we're using. I'm assuming the silicone either reacts with the resin or has some sort of problem. And as I say, we tried to make the joints as tight as possible, and where there is gaps, it's all been filled. This means when we come to paint over the top with the weatherproofing, it won't run down the cracks. So last few shots of the completed roof. I thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again on the next one.